Okay, let's start again. Hello, everyone. Again, welcome to the Terricon Valley Hub Conference 2025. This is the last event from the Terricon Valley this year, so we are happy to see you all. And at the beginning, it will be some presentations from our speakers. And then panel sessions. So now I want to welcome the first speaker, Maria Peterberg, SWAI team leader at Intercorporation. Maria, welcome. You can start.
Hello. English or Russian? Which language would you prefer?
I think you can combine, but it's okay, everything on Russian.
I'm sorry to call that out, but I wouldn't understand Russian. I'd prefer if you can stick to English as much as you can. That'd be very helpful.
Yes, no worries. I do have that presentation both on Russian and on English, so I don't really mind. So let me just find my presentation on English and we can start. No worries.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Just 1 second. Right there with you. Let me just share my screen. So I hope you can see my screen, everyone. Is that okay? Okay, good. So, sorry for that inconvenience. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Museum of AI Hallucinations. So, before we begin, a few words about me. My name is Maria Peterberg, as I've been introduced, and I've been a part of the high-tech industry for over a decade now. In the past 5 years, specifically, I had the privilege of working in the world of artificial intelligence and deep learning, and specifically in the lower layers of the training process, such as the communication layer for large-scale data centers training. These days, I lead the runtime team at Intel's Habana Labs. For those who are not familiar with runtime in that sense, my team is responsible for developing the core software layer that is essentially responsible for everything that happens during runtime, during graph execution time. So it means our software is handling memory management, communication with hardware engines, and of course, performance. That's the crucial part. So in other words, what we do is very interesting. And I think we can begin now. So today we will explore artificial intelligence and also a bit of art, because that's a personal passion of mine. So whenever we hear the word hallucination, we think of something going wrong, like a glitch in perception. But in AI, hallucinations are both a problem and an opportunity. And so today, we'll explore both sides, the curse and, surprisingly, also the blessing. So according to Oxford Dictionary, hallucination is defined as seeming to see or hear something or someone that is not really there, especially because of illness or drugs. So in other words, hallucinations are typically associated with false perceptions and something very negative, something to be feared or fixed. In the world of generative AI, the meaning isn't so different. With large language models such as ChatGPT or generative AI such as DALL-E, when these models is said to hallucinate, it means they had produced false or misleading information. And so just imagine this. You're planning a trip to a city you've never visited before. And to make the most of it, you ask ChatGPT for a recommendation. And after reviewing a list, you carefully select what seems like the perfect spot. So you get all excited, you dress up and you head out, anticipating a memorable evening in a charming, highly rated French bistro. But when you finally get there, the place is empty. And the restaurant, it doesn't exist. So you start second guessing everything. Did the taxi driver misunderstand me? Did I write down the wrong address? But after checking and rechecking, just the truth sinks in. There is no restaurant, not in that spot, not anywhere. In fact, it never did. exist. So sure, this is frustrating, but relatively, it's harmless. The real problem begins when hallucinations stop being funny. And let me show you some examples where things get really much more worrying. So I don't know if you know this, but 2 years ago, a verified Twitter account showed an image of an explosion next to a building shaped like the Pentagon. But the image actually was fake. It was AI generated. And although it was fake, it spread like wildfire, and it went viral even before anyone could verify it. So the Dow Jones dropped 85 points in just 4 minutes. And although it was fake, the panic, the market reaction, and the confusion, they were all very real. And more recently, Cursor's AI support bot, it just confidently informed users that the tool could not longer be used on more than one machine. Only it wasn't true. It was completely invented, not part of the company's policy, never approved by any human, but the bot said it with such authority. It had just stepped like it just had stepped out of a meeting with legal and product. So everyone believed it, obviously. They were mad. Users were really outraged, and some were so frustrated they actually canceled their accounts. So all because a single hallucinated sentence from a support bot. And the CEO had to clarify it. We have no such policy. And even though it sounded reassuring, could you imagine your own product spreading to users rules you've never invented? Now, let's take this a step deeper into the space where hallucination moves to really big problems. These are the scenarios that really matter. For example, medical misinformation can directly lead to incorrect diagnosis and wrong treatment. When AI confidently invents symptoms, treatments, or scientific studies, someone somewhere might act on it. Historical inaccuracies, for instance, can turn into rewriting history. We've already seen models produce fabricated quotes and invent events that never happened before. Over time, eventually this erodes trust and distorts collective memory. In engineering, even a tiny code hallucination, a made-up function, a wrong API, a missing safety check, it can cause system crash in productions. And when hallucinations enter the physical world, such as autonomous driving systems, flawed predictions can turn into dangerous driving malfunctions. So AI hallucinations aren't just fictional side effects. They have real-world implications. And so this is why understanding them, detecting them, and designing around them is so very important. So these examples lead us to a single conclusion. Every output can be verified and must be verified, no matter how persuasive it sounds. But let's lighten up a bit. Hallucinations aren't always frightening. These days, I'm working on a children's book that actually introduces young readers to the fascinating world of AI. So my first instinct, it was obvious. Why not create the illustrations with AI itself? It felt like the perfect win-win situation. Not only could I showcase the power of AI through a real-world example, but I could also save myself countless hours of drawing. But let's just say, things did not turn out quite as simple as I imagined. I collaborated with DALL-E 3, and I'd like to share some of the gems it produced. It's hilarious, adorable, and sometimes it's just weird. And I just want to mention that these are real outputs and I did not edit them. So can you see what's wrong with this? Well, yes, there's a hand floating out of the cauldron. Now, here we have the magician holding a bell in a very strange way. And our blue creature has a third hand. Not only that, that hand is actually a lot different from the other two. Now, how about this? We have a floating color palette, a floating hand holding a picture that's weird phenomenon, and the legs of the girl are somehow mixed with the table. Now, hallucinations like these are fairly common, especially when generating a large number of results. And while there are other challenges that can cause frustration, such as context bleeding, usually hallucinations would be the #1 enemy. So in the end, this behavior forced me toward one viable solution. To still be able to use generative AI for my book, I had to manually redraw big portions of each image on my iPad. So it's not impossible, but certainly it's a complication. It left me with one cruel realization. The model can handle most of the heavy lifting, but it consistently falls short on that critical last final 10%, where the precision, polish, and human judgment truly matter. And so let's discuss. Why is AI actually lying to us? Large models are pattern matching systems, not fact retrieval systems. These models generate plausible sounding information, which could be true or false in the real world. Multiple factors can contribute to false generated information, such as training bias. Model was trained on a data that does not really represent the real world correctly. For instance, imagine a model that was trained on to understand what a dog is using only pictures of brown dogs. Encountering a white dog, it might confuse it with something else entirely. Overfitting is when a model cannot generalize and fits too closely to the training dataset instead. Thus, it's unable to predict correctly on new data. Also, we can discuss model complexity, because as models grow from billions to trillions of parameters, they capture more statistical correlations in data, but not necessarily they have more factual grounding. So generative AI models like DALL-E and GPT are fundamentally trained on vast datasets, images with captions, text sequences, and much more. What they actually learn, like I said, is statistical correlations between features. They don't understand meaning or causality the way humans do. Instead, they sample from probability distributions shaped by their training data. This is why they can freely mix elements, even those that violate real-world logic or coherence, as long as the training data suggests that such combination could be possible. The human minds, on the other hand, are wired for coherence. When we think of a castle, we imagine a princess. When we think of a dog, probably it's chasing a ball or holding a bone. And a toddler, it's hugging a teddy bear or sleeping in a crib. This automatic pattern recognition is a powerful ally. It shows us how to navigate the world quickly, efficiently, and almost effortlessly. But there is a catch. It also constructs invisible boxes in our minds, boxes that make us default to the familiar. And in doing so, they quietly limit our creative potential. To an LLM, teddy bear and toddler appear together often, so they feel connected. To humans, they're connected because of stories, culture, and life experience. So, as I said, the human brain is quite addicted to storytelling. It will try to create meaning even when none exists. And to prove it, let's run a quick experiment. Take a moment and look at these words and try to divide them into 3 categories. Well, if I had to guess, I'd say that most of you came up with something similar to this. And why is that? Because of context. Our minds only find it trivial to group things we've seen together before. We imagine the fox walking through a forest, and trees around it, mushrooms on the ground. Some of you might add your own twist. Maybe the fox is sniffing the mushroom. Maybe, if your imagination runs a bit wilder, the fox is sitting by a campfire roasting the mushroom on a stick. But even at our most creative, we still follow the script. Our imagination stays grounded in the patterns and stories we already know. Now, context locks us into framework. And when everyone's working from the same framework, uniqueness dies. So let's try to break this context. What would happen if we could use the following grouping instead? Could you just imagine a fox, a moon, and a table together? I think not. I think that the moment you saw these 3 completely unrelated objects, a moon, a fox, and a table, your mind tried its absolute best to force a story out of them and failed. You probably stared at it for a second thinking, what do these even have to do with each other? And that's exactly the point. When there's no context, the human brain has nothing to grab onto. It hesitates and it freezes. But guess who doesn't struggle? Generative AI. Now, look at this picture. DALL-E 3 generated this entire beautiful detailed scene in just under 3 seconds. I honestly can't imagine how long it would take me or any human illustrator to design something with this level of detail, composition, and whimsy. Especially because the whole concept is so unusual, so far outside what our brains are naturally invent. So if you notice, the model even added little touches of logic and storytelling, a cup of tea, chairs to sit on, as if to make the impossible scene just a bit more believable, a bit more complete. And then there's this. If I had asked any of you earlier to group stars, mushroom, and cake, I doubt anyone would have arrived at this scene. But yet the model did. Here we have a full birthday party in the sky. We have smiling stars wearing celebratory hats, floating balloons, and right in the middle, we have a giant mushroom cake. And now lastly, we have a tree, drinking tea while sitting comfortably inside of a cloud. Now, no matter how imaginative we are, this isn't a scene most humans would naturally invent. It's real, it's oddly peaceful, it's something like out of a children's book. And again, this wasn't painted by an artist who spent hours thinking about composition and symbolism. This was generated in seconds by DALL-E 3, combining concepts in ways our minds simply just don't. So why is there such a difference between our minds and generative AI's thinking? Humans tend to reason based on meaning, coherence, and lived experience. When asked to imagine a scene involving a moon, a fox, and a table, our brains instinctively try to make sense of the combination. We want a narrative. Our minds search for logic, context, or metaphor, and we can't find one. We often stall or give up. The human brain doesn't just notice patterns, it builds models of the world, structures of meaning, causality, narrative, categories, and relations. Our thinking is constrained by coherence. We just expect things to make sense together. When something violates that coherence, it just throws us off, and we start to hesitate and question everything. We constantly weave for contextual constraints like time, place, goal, experience, norms, cause and effect, and so on and so forth. Because of these constraints, certain combinations feel just wrong to us, even though they're statistically possible. Now, as an artist, I know the weight of a creative block. The more you try to force originality, the more your ideas loop back into the same familiar patterns, the safe, predictable, and uninspired. You scroll for inspiration for hours, and then your mind just keeps circling back to the things it's already seen. And I've been thinking, could a generative AI hallucination be used in such cases just as a remedy? I think that now, after seeing and discussing all these examples, it becomes clear that the possibilities really are limitless. We are no longer confined to traditional workflows and traditional imagination. AI can now collaborate with us across almost every creative domain and not only. In visual arts, for instance, it can help us explore new styles, new compositions, new words that would take hours or years to create by hand. In music and sound, models already composing melodies, soundtracks, and even mastering audio with surprising emotional intelligence. In writing, from poetry to scripts to long storytelling, AI can spark ideas, extend narratives, or act as a creative co-author. And in games and interactive media, it can build characters, environments, and stories on the fly, transforming how worlds are created. Of course, in architecture and product design, it can generate shapes, forms, and concepts that humans often wouldn't even imagine, but engineers can later refine and build. So I think that we're entering a phase where creativity is no longer limited by time, tools, or technical skill. It's limited only by how boldly we choose to explore. So as you walk out of the Museum of AI Hallucinations, I would like you to remember that the line between error and inspiration is thinner than you think. Hallucinations remind us that AI is not a human replacement, but it's a powerful collaborator with a wildly different perspective. So thank you so much for joining this journey, and feel free, of course, to reach out anytime.
Thank you, Maria. Do you guys have some questions for the presentation? Okay.
I guess not.
Okay. If it's not, I would like to announce the next speaker. Okay. The next speaker is Stanislav Don. Welcome, and you can start your presentation now.
Do you see my screen?
Да.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Stanislav Don, a data scientist in AI. And today I want to talk about collaborative intelligence, the systems where humans and AI can co-create, not just human using AI tools. And I would like to set up expectations upfront. This talk is not about the best model or the coolest prompt. It's about something more worrying and I think much more important, how to design a surrounding system so AI actually improves outcomes. Because right now I see many teams feel this paradox. AI makes individuals faster, however, organizations don't necessarily get faster or safer or more reliable. So I'll present a simple argument. AI is just an amplifier. If you embed it into a weak system, it amplifies chaos. If you embed it in a well-designed system, it amplifies flow. And I'll show how I applied that using my current setup, Visual Studio Code, GitHub Copilot, and MCP servers. Oh, here is how we'll go through this. First, I'll explain why AI productivity often fails at the system level, especially in data and ML work. Second, I'll use the DORA lens. AI is an amplifier and the capabilities model that tells us who has to be true around AI for its help. Third, practice. My current setup, VS Code plus Copilot and MCP, and agent workflows. I'll show how I think about context, guardrails, and verification loops. And finally, a short summary, which you can take back to your own workflow. Let's start with a very common story. A developer or a data engineer asks AI, fix this query, refactor this code, add tests, or something like that. Then AI responds with something plausible. It looks good and it's produced fast. But then two things happen. First, the validation burden shifts. AI is extremely good at producing output, but organization is still responsible for the correctness. So teams often create changes faster than they can review or test or even understand them. That creates a new bottleneck, review and verification. Second, AI accelerates ambiguity. In data work, correctness is not just compilation, it's meaning. What's the metric definition? What's the grain? Which edge cases matter? If those things are like fuzzy, AI will happily guess. And the worst part is that these guesses can look like plausible and professional. So the failure is not like AI is wrong. The failure is AI makes it cheap to ship uncertainty. And in analytics and ML, trust is a like currency. The moment stakeholders don't trust the output, your real cycle time just explodes because everything becomes rework and explanation. Like so, the big question becomes: how do we get AI speed without accelerating confusions? Uh, that's what collaborative intelligence is trying to solve. I love how the Dora framing AI is just a mirror and a multiplier. That means that it doesn't magically fix broken processes. It doesn't automatically create quality. It actually amplifies whatever you already have. If your report has no tests, AI accelerates regressions. If review is overloaded, AI accelerates review overload. However, if your platform is strong, CI, templates, clear workflows, AI becomes real powerful because it can operate safely within those guardrails. So rather than talking about AI like a standalone tool, we should talk about it like participant inside the system. And that shifts our focus from prompts to architecture. Where does the context come from? How do we enforce small batches? What are the gates? Like this. So here's my practical definition. Humans provide the parts that require judgment. It is goals, interpretation, and like the final decision of what to ship or not. AI provides fast generation, fast reasoning search, and mechanical execution. But also there is a third key component, the system. Uh, Collaborative intelligence exists when the system supports co-creation with the right context, the right constraints, um, right verification loops. I think of it like a well-designed cockpit. The pilot is responsible, but the cockpit is full of instruments, checklists, and other guardrails that reduce the error and increases throughput. It's like he's adding a powerful new copilot. But if you don't redesign the cockpit, you don't get safety. You might get confusion. Mm, the most useful dark contribution, to my opinion, is it doesn't just say use AI. It describes organizational capabilities which can make AI effective. Um, Let me translate those into some real world implications. So for foundation, it is like crucial to have user-centric focus. So we measure impact, not activity. If AI helps you write more code, but users don't get more value, you haven't improved performance. Clear AI stance. You should set up explicit boundaries and expectations, not a vague use AI responsible or something like that. Um, your rules should be like what is allowed to do, what is not allowed, and how we handle accountability. If you don't tell developers which tools are safe to use and how to make it safe, they may actually paste sensitive data in ChatGPT, or controversially, if they don't have straightforward understanding policy about how they should use Gen AI, they may avoid using it and lose the opportunity of utilizing this tool and speed up their performance. Uh, Also, healthy data um, and accessible internal data is huge for data work. many mistakes happen because the model doesn't know your internal reality, like metric definitions, some terms, requirements, the main terminology. So the system must make those sources available to AI like securely. Discipline. So version control and small batches. Because AI makes it very cheap to change something, we must make changes governable. That means small PRs, traceability, and the ability to revert are not just nice practices. They become essential when AI increases throughput. And one capability people might emphasize it's internal platform quality. If you want agentic workflows, you need like paved roads, CI and tests, templates, uh, and like automation that turns good behavior into default. So let's switch from the theory to like more practical part. Here I will focus on two things: how like I fit context and how I might choose the right AI like mode. One of the most important practical lessons is prompting might be not enough. If you say only fix this, uh, you like asking the model to guess many things, like why it's broken, what intended behavior is, what conventions you follow. So I use three levels of context. Repo grounding is when I ask about the code base itself. For example, where I function is defined, how something is used. In VS Code it is defined using the add workspace, for example, yeah, and this is great for where is some function defined, which model owns this pipeline. So repo grounding helps to the model to stop hallucinating your architecture. Sometimes I don't want the whole repo, I want like a precise artifact. This is great for like explain what is the training loop does, find the bug in these kind of specific function. Like it's done through the dash file in VS Code, Copilot, Copilot, GitHub Copilot. And the last one is system grounding. This is where MCP comes. MCP is about how to connect the model to sources of which are beyond the repo. For example, like wiki pages for definition and runbooks, Jira tickets for requirements, and of course databases for schema and validations. And this is a real big shift. The model is no longer only reasoning from the text you give, it actually can query internal truth. So the idea behind is like you should move from prompts, like not even move, you should add the context to your pipelines. And like this maps directly to the DORA argument. Works when it has like access to internal context. Let's talk about MCP a bit more. This is like not magic, some magic. It's essentially a standard to give the model tool to access your internal system securely and in structured way. So it is valuable because many AI failures from missing context. So here I wanted to give you some examples of what MCP service you might find useful. So the first is example is database and MCP. I think it's probably one of the most powerful for data workflow. It can help you with the schema inspection, key discovery, and it allows to automate validation queries. Instead of guessing column names or join keys, the agent can check virality by itself. Or, for example, GitHub MCP. It can find some repo metadata, PR history, issues history. So this greatly help with continuity. Like, has this been changed recently? Or are there similar PRs? Yeah. So now we move from context to governance. A clear AI stance is not just a PDF policy nobody reads. It has to live where work happens. So, like, yeah, I like this concept AI as stands as code. So, what does it mean? It means encoding rules that makes the system safe even when AI is really fast. So you should PR first. Agents don't ship; they only propose, and humans merge. The final decision is behind the human. So small batches, one task, one PR, and minimal diff. This is an antidote to Agents Pro, where the model changes 20 files simultaneously and nobody understands why. With understanding helps evidence by default. So when the AI agent makes some changes, I require it to provide what assumptions it made, or what tests were run or should be run. And for data changes, I ask it to provide me some validation queries. It is also very important to provide some risk boundaries. So no secrets should be uploaded to your repo, and the agent can, like, for some risky operations, the agent can only propose a plan, but the human executes. So if for some risky commands, it should be explicitly the permission should be explicitly given. So this slide shows like an example instructions which you can put in your repository for GitHub Copilot agent. So the agent will follow these rules like by default. It is like benefits is consistency through the many agents you may use and the requests, and like it reduces cognitive overhead. Here I stated some like keep PR small, non-refactor unrelated code, and this stuff. What I recommend here is like making those instructions useful. Like for this, you should keep them short and operational. Make them aligned with your pipelines. So if the repo uses, I know, PyTest and rough, your instruction should explicitly say provide verify steps with PyTest and rough. And instructions should optimize for reviewer experience, so it will be so it will be easier to review the changes. Because yeah, AI increases the output throughput, but organizations still must keep validation throughput high to keep up with the increasing speed of changes. Now we can talk about the modes. So I use 3 modes, like a ladder of autonomy, the assistant AI drafts, human executes and decides, collaborator, AI proposes a coherent multi-diff, a human supervises scope and supervises its meaning, and the agent AI runs a multi-step workflow, like plan, act, verify, and iterate. And the important part is that you should think about like what mode is the most suitable for your current task. You should pick it based on the scope, the risk level. Yeah, so let's talk about each mode individually. So for a system mode, it is what I use when I want maximum control and understanding. So it's best when the task is local, it's one file or one snippet, or the risk is high. So I need to the maximum control level. For example, this mode is perfect for drafting an SQL query, but it may contain sensitive data, and I should validate it by myself. For collaborator, it is the mode for multi-file coherence. It is where I want AI to coordinate changes across multiple files while I still drive the process. One good example for it is like DBT in data engineering. So model creates SQL, documentation, and supportive files. Schema it provides the schema. Yeah, yeah. So by doing it manually, you spend a lot of time on coordination, and AI collaborator can update all those pieces very fast and consistently. However, you should remember about small batches rule. Like you shouldn't turn the use collaborate mode when for like simultaneous big refactor. So it is very useful to set up constraints. So touch only these files. You should have only one PR per ticket, something like that. Because like as I already said, collaborator can change 20 files, and like with one big with this like simultaneous change, it would be super difficult to review it. Agentic mode is where things get like interesting, because in agent mode, AI operates in a loop engine. It can and firstly it plans steps, then edits code. I can run some comment or test, observe failures itself, fix it itself, and repeat until tests will or the test will pass. And this mode is extremely like valuable for mechanical tasks. It can generate tests and iterate until they pass. It can help with fixing across the fix linting across the PR. So yeah. However, agentic mode is only safe when the term done is machine checkable. It means that if you have CI tests and clear conventions, the agent can be fast without being reckless. Now return to the system lens. Most teams deploy AI where it's easiest, code generation, of course. But the real constraints in the value stream are often elsewhere. So usually it is in the review bandwidth or missing tests. It also can be like in documentation gaps. So if you want like not individual level impact, but organizational level impact, you should ask where AI is most useful to use. No, not like where can I write more code. And for this, you can use value stream management for here. It's basically flow thinking. It helps to measure the path from the idea to validated value, and it helps to improve the points where work gets stuck. And AI is great in increasing local output, but if you speed um, if you speed up work before the constraint, like review or unclear requirements, you just build a bigger queue, and like you should do more rework. So like it is really useful to use VSM here. Yeah. Also, it is useful to look at the risk level. So for like to make it scalable, it may be useful to apply a simple autonomy by risk framework. So for low risk tasks like formatting docs, here agentic mode is often safe. For medium risk task, changes through core logic or metrics. Here we require some PR first, CI, and human review. So collaborators might be useful. However, for high risk tasks, for security sensitive work or something, here the agent can propose plan, but yeah, of course, humans should execute it, not an agent mode. So let me close this speech with like some summary or blueprint. If you want collaborative intelligence, think in these 5 boundaries components. Policy, You should define explicit rules and risk boundaries. Context, repo grounding, file grounding plus MCP to Jira or Wiki, GitHub or databases is really useful. Workflow, use PR first, small batches, evidence by default behavior. For platform, you should set up CI test templates, like paved roads for an NI to make the most powerful impact from the using the AI and like measure. You should be user focused, so you should measure the user impact. You should measure the like rework rates, incidents, cycle to time to validate changes. This all helps to set up the pipeline where AI would be more profitable. So thank you for listening to me. I will be happy to answer your questions.
Okay. Nobody have questions, right? Вопросы? Можно на русском вопросы, если у
Да,
кого-то
конечно.
есть? Если вопросов нет, спасибо, Станислав, за презентацию. И я буду рада представить следующего нашего спикера. Андрей Чубин, engineering manager at Tipati. Я буду
Там
рада вас...
опечатка у вас на сайте. Lead Data Scientist Quantum One. Там.
Извините, пожалуйста, все отлично. Можете начинать вашу презентацию. Спасибо.
Спасибо. Мы презентуем на английском или на
Вы можете презентовать на русском языке.
На русском. Хорошо.
Можете, да.
У меня презентация, правда, будет на английском, но я надеюсь, что это не проблема.
Да, конечно.
Мой экран видно сейчас?
Да.
Давайте я... Сейчас. 5, по-моему.
Добро пожаловать в Волну.
Извиняюсь. Ладно, давайте так продолжим. Сейчас. Извините, вылетел совсем из головы. Не помню, какая комбинация, чтобы в режим презентера перейти. Ну, давайте не будем терять время. Я сегодня хотел бы рассказать про use case, который мы, скажем, для контекста, я какое-то время работал в компании, одним из сервисов которых является приложение по доставке еды. Для тех, кто живет в России, знаком, например, с Яндекс.Едой, это вот очень подобная штука. Ctrl. Нет. Это очень похожее приложение. Компания является дочерней компанией Uber на Ближнем Востоке. И дочерней компании на Ближнем Востоке, и в приложении, как вы себе представляете, там есть большое количество виджетов, задача которых является улучшение discovery опыта для клиента, то есть различные рекомендации, какие-то подборки. И вот один из виджетов, это был вот такой вот слайдер, ну, он, в общем-то, все еще есть, в котором рестораны разбиты на определенные группы, на определенные подборки. Эти подборки могут быть, например, как по кухням, итальянская, китайская, азиатская, так и может быть по какому-то смыслу. Рамадан, вот там рестораны, в которых есть сейчас скидки, какие-то персонализированные подборки, новые рестораны и так далее, и так далее. И вот эти подборки, они, в общем-то, были совершенно разные по размеру, от сотни до тысяч ресторанов. То есть можно слабо себе представить, чтобы человек смог всю эту подборку отскроллить. И, в общем-то, с этой проблемой мы и столкнулись. То есть, когда мы начали анализировать перформанс виджетов на нашем главном экране, мы поняли, что вот этот виджет, несмотря, в общем-то, на достаточно понятный смысл, очень сильно выбивался по качеству. То есть он был практически на 10% хуже в плане конверсии, чем остальные виджеты на главном экране, что в общем-то, является достаточно большой разницей, то есть практически на треть он был хуже. И когда мы начали смотреть, в чем же все-таки проблема, оказалось, что пользователи, они не очень склонны к скроллингу. И, в общем-то, если пользователь не находил то, что ему было нужно на первых 10-12 позициях, он просто дропал, то есть он уходил из этого виджета, и дальше, в общем-то, конверсии не происходило. Известно, что чем дольше, на самом деле, в таких приложениях пользователь тратит на поиск ресторана, тем ниже становится вероятность конверсии. То есть получается, если пользователь начинал путь с нашего виджета, то в итоге был гораздо шанс того, что он найдет то, что нужно, он снижался. Следующая проблема, которая была, это то, что эти подборки, они делались вручную. То есть, проще говоря, либо действительно в Operations Team сидел человек и просто вручную подбирал эти рестораны, или они подбирались посредством тегов. То есть, опять же, теги добавляются вручную, когда ресторан заходит на платформу. Это может быть, например, там бургер, американская кухня, барбекю. Ну, то есть это могут быть как кухни, так и вот, например, какие-то смысловые истории, которые я показывал ранее. И они вот либо собирались вручную, либо просто выбирался какой-то список тегов, которые использовались как фильтр для этой подборки. Но проблема в том, что дальше никакой серьезной сортировки или какого-нибудь ранжирования не происходило. То есть они просто ранжировались по популярности общей. И на этом все заканчивалось. То есть никакой персонализации там не было. И когда мы начали смотреть, конечно, первое, что идея, на которую к которой мы пришли, это что нужно добавить персонализацию, потому что вкусы, конечно, у людей очень-очень разные. Но проблема заключалась в том, что мы должны были подготовить такую модель и такой подход к персонализации, при котором не нужно было бы под каждую подборку переобучать модель. Это первое. А второе, у нас достаточно большой процент пользовательской базы, они имеют мало заказов. Это в первую очередь связано просто с самой структурой пользователей на Ближнем Востоке, что там очень много людей, которые находятся сезонно. Они приезжают, они пару месяцев работают, и они уезжают. И таким образом не складывается на самом деле достаточно большого объема пользовательской базы. В качестве вдохновения мы наткнулись на работу нашей головной компании. Эта модель называется Two-Tower Embedding Model. Ее идея такова, что есть два разных... Сейчас, извините, есть две разные модели. Одна модель строит эмбеддинг для пользователя, вторая модель строит эмбеддинг для айтема или для ресторана. И дальше эти эмбеддинги по факту, скажем так, по обычной косинусной близости считается вероятность конверсии. То есть задача модели в латентном пространстве поставить эмбеддинги таким образом, чтобы эмбеддинг пользователя и эмбеддинг ресторанов, которые ему нравятся, они находились близко. И таким образом эти модели две, их потом можно отделить и использовать раздельно. То есть можно заранее предпочитать эмбеддинг всех пользователей, эмбеддинг всех ресторанов, и дальше просто по обычному там nearest neighbors алгоритму найти те рестораны, которые, возможно, будут интересны пользователю, но которых он еще не видел, в которых он еще ничего не заказывал. В данном подходе обычно оба эмбеддинга тренируются с нуля, но, конечно, это требует достаточно большого объема данных и хорошего качества, чего у нас не было. Поэтому мы немножко подошли к этому, мы немножко, скажем так, модифицировали этот подход. Для ресторанов мы переиспользовали нашу языковую модель, которая была подготовлена для поиска. То есть банально мы брали меню, мы брали название ресторана, и на основе этого, используя contrastive loss к запросам пользователей, мы построили модель, дообучали Tiny Bird, вообще самую-самую маленькую модель, потому что наши эксперименты показали, что дообучать большие модели, в общем-то, не приносит нужных результатов, потому что изменить что-то в моделях на миллиарды параметров, там, на десятки миллиардов параметров, ну, практически не представляется возможным на том объеме, который был у нас. Далее просто, условно говоря, мы добавляем к вот этим текстовым эмбеддингам, которые у нас уже есть, и мы их даже не перетрениваем, мы добавляем определенные фичи, сигналы, такие как, например, стоимость, объемы заказов, рейтинги, насколько часто там люди конвертируются в этих ресторанах и так далее, и так далее, и так далее. Ну, базовые параметры, которые мы можем еще дополнительно описать эти рестораны. И дальше пропускаем. Давайте посмотрим на схему. То есть мы собираем вот эти параметры, переиспользуем эту модель, мы ее не дообучаем во время построения эмбеддингов ресторанов. Вместо этого мы, условно, это немножко похоже на то, как в лоре это используется. Мы дополнительный маленький совсем эмбеддинг обучаем просто для того, чтобы избежать переобучения. Мы пытаемся ухватить какие-то нюансы, которые не были ухвачены текстовым эмбеддингом, но при этом мы не стараемся полностью поменять ландшафт внутри языковой модели. Далее это все объединяется и проходит через энкодер нейросетевой. И на выходе вот эта часть модели выдает нам эмбеддинг ресторана. Вторая часть — это модель пользователя. Здесь несколько сложнее, потому что мы не можем описать пользователя каким-то текстом, у него нет меню. И, как я сказал, у нас база пользовательская такая, что из-за того, что у каждого пользователя в среднем не очень много заказов, получалось так, что если обучать эмбеддинг с нуля, то мы просто оверфитились очень сильно, и модель ничего полезного, в общем-то, не выучивала. Поэтому было решено воспользоваться подходом, когда мы берем какую-то историю заказов пользователя за определенный период времени и по факту усредняем эмбеддинги. То есть у нас уже есть эмбеддинги ресторанов, мы берем рестораны из его предыдущих заказов и просто их усредняем. Но проблема этого подхода была в том, что если пользователь, например, заходит в подборку с мороженым, он же нам дает explicit, то есть явный сигнал того, что он сейчас хочет именно мороженое. В его заказах, например, были только рестораны с бургерами. И получается, что усредняя его историю заказов из ресторанов с бургерами, мы бы нашли бы ему тот ресторан с мороженными, который был бы наиболее близок к ресторанам с бургерами, что, конечно же, не имеет никакого смысла. Поэтому мы добавили контекстную фильтрацию, то есть когда мы берем кандидата, как я уже сказал, у кандидатов есть теги, мы берем только те рестораны, которые имеют такие же теги, как и у кандидата. То есть, проще говоря, если пользователь заходит в подборку с мороженым, мы будем искать только рестораны с мороженым или с десертами в его истории заказов. И будем уже дальше искать те рестораны, которые близки к векторам ресторанов, которые ему ему понравились. Дальше мы добавили также дополнительные сигналы, например, а сколько обычно пользователь тратит, как он это делает, когда, какие кухни ему больше всего нравятся, в какое время он более всего активен. Это нужно для того, чтобы в случае, когда мы не нашли никаких ресторанов в его истории, которые бы соответствовали бы текущей подборке, мы бы все равно смогли бы подобрать ему ресторан. Ну, условно говоря, если человек предпочитает high-end рестораны, какие-нибудь дорогие, мы не должны ему в подборке с бургерами показывать Макдональдс на первом месте, потому что понятно, что, скорее всего, ему это неинтересно. И наоборот. То есть, если человек в основном предпочитает покупать в бюджетных местах, то мы не будем ему показывать рестораны с мишленовскими звездами. Ну и также глобальные сигналы, что, конечно, рестораны с более высокими рейтингами, рестораны более популярные, они должны находиться наверху, они должны быть ближе к пользователю, даже без какой-то дополнительной обработки. То есть модель, она должна быть в состоянии такую логику ухватить в том числе. В итоге наша модель выглядела вот так, то есть вот как я описывал, это у нас эмбеддинг, который мы получаем из истории заказов пользователя. Мы выбираем, предположим, что синий — это вот тег или кухня того ресторана, который мы сейчас оцениваем. И мы выбираем только релевантные рестораны из его истории, мы их усредняем, и, в общем-то, остальной подход, он остается, в общем-то, таким же, каким он был и для ресторанов. То есть мы пропускаем это через нейросетевой энкодер, и на выходе получаем эмбеддинг пользователя. В итоге, что мы с этими двумя эмбеддингами делаем? По факту мы обучаем модель предсказывать три переменных. Первая переменная — это вероятность конверсии, то, что нас интересует больше всего. Вторая — это вероятность добавления какого-то айтема или какого-то блюда в корзину. И последнее — это вероятность клика, потому что у нас иерархичная история, то есть мы показываем сначала ресторан, мы должны понять, кликнет он на него или нет. Если он кликнул, он перешел на следующий этап, и дальше будет ли... Потому что бывает иногда, сам ресторан может быть хороший, но меню у ресторана очень сложное, и пользователи просто ничего не добавляют. То есть вроде бы им ресторан понравился на первый взгляд, но они ничего не покупают. Или, например, та ценовая зона, в которой находится ресторан, не соответствует ожиданиям пользователя, он, посмотрев на цены, уходит. Поэтому то есть мы смотрим на вероятность того, что он хоть что-то там добавит, то есть его что-то заинтересует, и дальше на вероятность последней конверсии. Безусловно, мы для ранжирования используем только последнее, потому что нас больше всего интересует именно вероятность конверсии. Но добавление вот этих двух переменных, оно достаточно серьезно улучшало стабильность и качество модели, потому что ей как бы надо было балансировать по большому счету между вот этими различными переменными. Более того, обучение на этих различных переменных, она позволяет эту модель потом переиспользовать на различных этапах приложения. То есть использовать ее не только в этом виджете, не только для этого, но, например, и для других задач, о чем я расскажу чуть-чуть позже. Вот так выглядела финальная архитектура модели, которую мы сделали. Она достаточно сильно похожа на то, что разработал Uber, но с достаточно тоже серьезными добавлениями. То есть мы видим, что у Uber, например, вот здесь вот модель заканчивается, то есть они берут два вот этих эмбеддинга, строят по большому счету просто косинусную близость. То есть, проще говоря, задача модели вот два этих эмбеддинга в случае, если здесь единичка, поставить как можно ближе. Мы пошли немножко дальше и одновременно использовали вот это вот предикт по конверсии мы использовали для того, чтобы, например, узнать вероятность добавления в корзину. Я забыл еще упомянуть на прошлом, что здесь мы используем ограничение, что, безусловно, вероятность конверсии не может быть, например, чем вероятность клика, потому что конверсии без клика быть не может. Следовательно, здесь есть определенная зависимость, и она не должна превышаться. Поэтому мы предсказываем на самом деле, мы только в начале предсказываем вероятность конверсии, а дальше мы предсказываем только так называемый offset, то есть мы предсказываем, насколько больше будет следующая вероятность в воронке, для того, чтобы всегда быть уверенными, что вот этот вот constraint, вот это ограничение, оно соблюдается. Вот, и общий флоу был следующим, то есть еще основная задача, о которой я не упомянул, это то, что, безусловно, все должно быть очень быстро. Серьезные ограничения по latency, то, что пользователь не должен ждать там 20-30 секунд, чтобы подборка с ресторанами открылась, она должна открыться сразу. И в самом худшем случае нам надо было проскорить 1500 ресторанов примерно за 5-10 миллисекунд. И флоу для этого был следующий. Пользователь заходит, например, в определенную категорию, предположим, суши. Дальше мы из векторной базы данных достаем историю его заказов, фильтруем по вот этому, по тегам, которые входят в эту категорию, собираем фичи, которые у нас уже лежат в каком-то быстром хранилище, как для пользователя, так и для ресторанов, которые мы будем сейчас оценивать. Прогоняем их через две модели и по факту сразу получаем скор и выдаем его на выходе. По большому счету даже там скоринг здесь он скажем так, он сходится к банальному перемножению там не очень больших векторов, что обеспечивает достаточно быструю работу всего этого приложения. Далее, прежде чем я расскажу про результаты, мы попробовали переиспользовать также эту модель. Дело в том, что в приложении в различных местах есть реклама. Реклама не такая, как многие привыкли там где-нибудь на развлекательных, а реклама ресторанов. И рестораны за эту рекламу платят. Дело в том, что место для показа оно всего одно, рестораны, которые сейчас крутятся в промиках, их достаточно большое количество, и появилась идея, почему бы эту модель, например, не переиспользовать для ресторанов, для рекламы, извините, используя вот ту другой target variable в виде CTR. И без каких-либо изменений мы смогли, в общем-то, получить здесь импакт. То есть мы даже ничего не переобучали, ничего не меняли. Вся та же самая модель, просто ее поставили в другой части приложения. И итоговые результаты были такие, что конкретно в этом виджете конверсия выросла на 2,5 процентных пункта. Это может казаться не очень много, но в масштабах большого приложения с там, миллионами пользователей это достаточно большой прирост. На 0,7 процентных пунктов выросла CTR, то есть количество кликов по рекламе, и общую конверсию нам тоже, в общем-то, удалось поднять. То есть в итоге вот этот эксперимент нейросетевой, он оказался достаточно успешным. Так, наверное, у меня все. Если у кого-то есть какие-то вопросы, пояснения, то я с удовольствием отвечу. Да, извините, пожалуйста, я забыл один моментик еще обсудить, что так как это по факту модель модульная, то есть, условно говоря, у вас есть, то есть ваша задача в итоге просто построить какой-то вектор в латентном пространстве, нету никакой проблемы в том, чтобы сделать эту модель мультимодальной. Наши исследования показали, что, например, неплохой прирост также дает добавление картинки, потому что очень часто на восприятие пользователя влияет то, какой картинкой представлен ресторан в списке. Например, если человек ищет какой-нибудь дорогой ресторан, то он ожидает, что картинки, они, в общем-то, будут соответствовать, что, например, там, ну, еда как минимум на картинке не будет в одноразовой посуде. И наоборот, если пользователь видит, что на картинке с рестораном лежит какой-нибудь дорогой стейк на дереве, то, ну, имеется в виду на деревянной там какой-нибудь доске или что-то такое, то он с очень большой вероятностью подумает, что этот ресторан находится вне его бюджета и пойдет искать что-нибудь другое. То есть здесь есть возможность добавить, например, картинки для того, чтобы улучшить еще представление ресторанов. Можно пойти чуть глубже и вместо предпочтений пользователя по ресторанам и предпочтений пользователя, вот как я говорю, в предыдущих заказах смотреть не только, где он заказывал, но и что он заказывал, потому что многие рестораны, они иногда, у них может быть как бы мультикухня, то есть они могут, у них может быть пицца и бургеры, а человек, может быть, его не интересует. Также с чем мы еще столкнулись, на Ближнем Востоке очень много живет людей из Индии, это то, что многие из них вегетарианцы, а индийские рестораны очень часто сервируют как обычную еду, так и вегетарианскую. И, следовательно, человеку, который заказывает из этих ресторанов, там надо быть очень внимательным, чтобы не посоветовать ему, например, какой-нибудь KFC, так как, в общем-то, курица очень популярна в индийской кухне, но так как он вегетарианец, мы на самом деле ему должны советовать в подборке вегетарианские рестораны. Но единственная проблема, вот, с которой мы столкнулись, это то, что с картинками не удалось в latency уложиться, и это было временно отложено в долгий ящик. Так, давайте я зачитаю вопросы. Вопрос есть от Мирием. Да, спасибо за комплимент. Хотела узнать, по каким параметрам вы оцениваете, насколько улучшен user experience и насколько улучшился перформанс после использования улучшения фичей этой модели. Какие страны, да. Смотрите, user experience — это действительно такая вещь, которую очень тяжело квантифицировать, то есть ее просто сложно посчитать. В данном случае мы опирались сугубо на экономические метрики. То есть кстати, извините, я только что заметил, что у меня была все это время выключена камера, и мне никто об этом не сказал. Но ничего страшного. Да, мы смотрели на экономические метрики, то есть в данном случае нашим таргетом было увеличение конверсии. То есть, проще говоря, мы смотрели на деньги. И мы предполагаем, что если пользователи, в общем-то, стали чаще заказывать, и это мы определяем при помощи АБ-тестов, потому что объемы все равно, все-таки количество сессий в сутки, если мне не изменяет память, 500 или 700 тысяч только в одном городе, ну, в самом главном городе у нас было. То есть достаточно для того, чтобы провести АБ-тест, и на АБ-тесте мы получили статистически значимые улучшения конверсии. Какие страны Ближнего Востока? Да, данную модель мы раскатили на двух основных рынках. Это Эмираты и Иордания. В первую очередь это Дубай и Оман, столица Иордании. Может быть, еще какие-то вопросы? Все ли было понятно? Может быть, кому-то интересно где-то чуть-чуть больше пояснить?
Вопросов нет. Спасибо вам большое, Андрей. Очень интересная презентация. Я хочу представить следующего спикера, Андрей Сенцев, Lead Software Engineer at OneTap.
Добрый день. Да, только я Артем, и я CTO ClearPick.
Извините, пожалуйста.
Да,
Артем.
да. Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Так, я могу уже запускать демонстрацию. Так, давайте попробуем. Скажите, пожалуйста, видно или нет? Если видно, то что видно?
Все видно, все супер.
Да, все супер, отлично. Да, сегодня мы поговорим об AI, которому можно доверять, то есть прокачанные LLM, которые могут быть использованы в бизнес-процессах, которые требуют прозрачности и отчетности. То есть, как правило, это процессы, связанные возможно, с HR, возможно, с финансами, в целом с закупками и так далее. Моя презентация будет более продуктовая, я не буду сильно погружаться в детали технические. Если вам интересно, мы это можем обсудить, но в целом формат выступления довольно ограниченный, предполагает, я так понимаю, верхнеуровневое обсуждение решения. И сегодня я вам хотел бы рассказать об экспериментах, которые мы проводим. Заключается наш эксперимент в следующем. Так как наш стартап работает с графами, это основная форма обработки информации, потому что нас интересуют связи между фактами, объектами, это самое важное. Поэтому и эксперименты с искусственным интеллектом, с большими языковыми моделями мы также начали применять графы. Сейчас, судя по тому, что я слышал постоянно от наших клиентов, что искусственный интеллект в бизнесе – это не просто окно с чатом, это должен быть объяснимый помощник, объяснимый агент, который помогает выполнять, автоматизировать, завершать какие-то бизнес-процессы от начала и до конца. То, о чем часто сейчас говорят, о том, что LLM, по сути, это стажер, который в целом работает хорошо, много генерит информации, очень уверенно ее преподносит, но требует постоянной проверки. То есть, например, в процессе анализа финансовой информации или анализа закупок мы не можем полагаться на исключительно данные из больших языковых моделей, потому что они, во-первых, могут галлюцинировать, во-вторых, мы не до конца уверены, на чем же они были натренированы, мы к этому чуть позже вернемся, и так далее. То есть основная проблема, да, то, что мы не знаем, можем ли мы доверять аутпуту из LLM. И тут мы переходим уже к реальности нашего мира, к реальности бизнеса, да, о том, что мы вступаем на поле юридическое, где царит регуляция, ответственность. И, например, Европейский акт об искусственном интеллекте, он обязывает уже делать AI, используемый в бизнес-процессах, прозрачным, обязывает показывать, как сотрудники обучены использовать AI в бизнес-процессах, то есть что они должны понимать in and out, да, что мы вводим, что мы получаем и почему это получается. И если мы, например, смотрим уже на опыт каких-то стран, в частности, да, Connecticut в США или ряд европейских стран, например, Испания, да, то пользователи могут отказаться от результатов автоматизированного принятия решений, в частности, например, скоринг и скрининг резюме, так как AI может быть предвзятым. Да, тот искусственный помощник, который делал оценку, он может быть biased. И это очень серьезно, потому что это грозит компаниям огромными штрафами, во-первых, потому что это нарушение может быть GDPR, это может быть нарушение того же акта об искусственном интеллекте в Европе и так далее. Самая важная, наверное, проблема, про которую также все часто упоминают, одна из самых важных, это то, что бесплатные модели, которые могут, вроде Квена и так далее, вы знаете, я думаю, много на рынке представлено, они используют common crawl, да, то есть это данные, которые полны шума. Мы не знаем, что было в этих датасетах, кто попытался их отравить, кто попытался в них что-то добавить и так далее. Да, возможно, это был пиар осознанный, да, возможно, это были какие-то зловредные акторы, которые пытались добавить какие-то зловредные коды и так далее. И это мешает помогать бизнесу, да, потому что мы не знаем факты. Это самая важная проблема. Это самая большая проблема, что мы не знаем факты. И внутренняя информация о компании, да, знание, например, о ваших клиентах, о ваших сотрудниках, да, оно помогает, потому что это твердая информация, которую мы можем отследить, мы понимаем ее происхождение и так далее. Вот буквально в Твиттере недавно увидел о том, как разработчик написал о том, что много лет назад на Stack Overflow он оставил комментарий неправильный, и сейчас LLM-модели преподносят его неправильный комментарий как решение какой-то проблемы. То есть, по сути, это называется poisoning, да, что и здесь человек сделал это неосознанно, потому что у него было мало опыта, но мы знаем уже, что есть уже специальные целевые кампании, где проводится специальный вброс информации в интернет, да, чтобы отравить тренировочные датасеты LLM, которые потом будут использоваться в бизнесе для принятия решений. И это очень опасно. Да, то есть, например, юристы отказываются работать с такими решениями, которые полагаются только на output из LLM. И здесь, как я и говорил, нам нужно возвращаться к нашим внутренним данным, у которых должен быть больше вес, большая значимость в ваших датасетах, да, то есть вы должны полагаться больше, клиент может полагаться больше именно на внутренние знания, которые у него есть о мире, о клиентах, нежели чем на output из LLM. И как же это все связать? Да, возникает вопрос. Уже обкатанная технология существует, RAG, да, Retrieval Augmented Generation, да, то есть сначала у вас и ищет информацию в вашей базе знаний, а потом он уже формирует ответ, формирует свое мнение. Продуктовая ценность в этом, конечно же, заключается в том, что мы минимизируем галлюцинации через ограничение контекста. То есть мы заставляем LLM, по сути, работать только с ограниченным набором фактов, которые мы знаем, которые мы отследили, которые мы понимаем. Следующая, да, важная ценность – это что мы можем объяснить, как ответ LLM возник, откуда он пришел, откуда он получился. Потому что, используя наши внутренние документы, да, мы понимаем, мы видим ссылку, мы видим информацию на конкретный документ, ссылку на конкретный документ и так далее. Коллеги уже ранее неоднократно говорили о том, что LLM может выдумывать места, человек приходит, ресторана нет в том месте, или LLM может выдумывать научные работы, книги, фильмы и так далее. Такое случается сплошь и рядом, если использовать обычные пользовательские интерфейсы. И, разумеется, в бизнесе это не подойдет. Деньги вы потратите на токены, да, но вы получите галлюцинацию. И как раз-таки та технология, с которой мы работаем, с которой мы занимаемся, это графовый RAG. В чем отличие? Если в двух словах, то здесь используется не векторный поиск, а именно графовый поиск между конкретными нодами, которые представляют собой факты, сущности, да, и связи между ними. И, соответственно, LLM используется как мозги, а графовый RAG как память. Да, то есть она знает факты, и LLM к ней обращается. И Как это можно использовать, да, что если у вас, например, есть какой-то проект, с которым взаимодействуют разные департаменты, разные команды, мы можем объединить их контексты, да, мы можем объединить эти корзины данных в одну логическую сеть, с которой ОЛМ будет работать и помогать, например, быстрой коммуникации между командами. Далее у нас может быть кейс, да, что нам требуется подбор сотрудника провести, и система будет сканировать не только резюме, но и, например, LinkedIn, любую другую информацию, которая у вас есть в ваших внутренних системах и так далее. Потому что бывали очень часто случаи, когда в HR, например, было такое, что бывшего сотрудника звали, которого уволили недавно, и эта информация никак не попадала в автоматизированную систему, и другие казусы могут происходить. Выглядит это примерно так, схематично. Я не стал рисовать техническую схему, но для того, чтобы как-то вас развлечь и показать, как это может выглядеть. То есть, как вы видите, в любом случае мы можем использовать векторную базу данных, но при этом центром, сердцем, да, является графовая база данных, которая также использует векторы, мы можем также высчитывать и так далее. И пользователь также использует какой-то промпт, да, и получает уже какой-то LLM на основе проверенных фактов. Что мы в итоге получаем? Что обоснованное решение, да, которое мы легко можем показать регулятору, показать точку А и точку Б, и как мы к ней пришли. Это очень важно. То есть в регулируемых сферах вроде юриспруденции, финансов, банкинга и так далее, это очень важно, да, чтобы показать аудитору, техническому аудитору, финансовому аудитору всю необходимую информацию. Так, далее. Мы переходим к самой методологии, да, Defensible AI. То есть в кибербезопасности это называется Zero Trust. Я могу путать, но мне нравится эта аналогия, что мы не верим и да, мы проверяем все фактами. При этом и делает грязную работу, да, то есть он выстраивает цепочку связей, но человек должен принимать все равно решение, ответственность за это, да, то есть мы облегчаем, ускоряем работу, показываем всю необходимую информацию, но человек все равно принимает решение, мы не даем это на откуп. И да, это очень важно. Human in the loop — это важный контекст, да, где мы еще показываем, что у нас условно есть второй уровень защиты. И коротко, я не знаю, есть ли у меня еще время, я хотел бы рассказать, как это реализовывается, да, в плане технологий. Мы используем Neo4j, потому что у нас с этой базой данных большой опыт. И Neo4j используется как индустриальный стандарт для такого рода задач, потому что он, как я и говорил ранее, сфокусирован именно на связях. А связи нам очень важны для того, чтобы именно показывать цепочку между фактами, да, между источниками, между документами и так далее. И обычные релативные базы данных для этого не очень подходят. Вот это как может выглядеть, да, пример такого графа. То есть у нас могут быть документы, побитые на чанки. Мы точно знаем, что у нас есть как конкретный чанк, он связан с каким-то документом, этот документ мы получили откуда-то, из этого чанка извлечена какая-то информация критичная, она связана, например, с каким-то объектом и так далее. Это очень важно понимать. То есть, как я и сказал, да, что у нас Neo4j, он использует в роли памяти, да, и которая хранит отношения между чем-то и чем-то. И основное преимущество Neo4j, да, в том, что он позволяет мгновенно обходить на большую глубину десятки, да, тысяч нодов, выявлять между ними связи и передавать эту информацию в в LLM, да, который уже предоставит какую-то информацию об этом. Также основной плюс то, что мы можем масштабировать, скейлить легко. Neo4j это позволяет. добавлять больше внутренней информации, при этом мы не будем терять производительность. Ну, разумеется, да, с определенными оговорками, нам в любом случае придется что-то автоматизировать. И вот короткий use case, да, что, например, менеджеру требуется информация о том, кто занимается каким-то проектом, и мы обращаемся к и, да, который может дать устаревший PDF, ссылку на устаревший PDF, да, и так далее. И в итоге мы не получим качественный ответ. А что делает Neo4j и графовый рак? Да, он находит нужный документ, находит, да, упоминание нужного эксперта, добавляет контекст, и в результате за счет ограничения контекста, да, мы можем получить очень точный, понятный, отслеживаемый ответ. Да, то есть в чем заключается бизнес-ценность, да, что мы сокращаем время поиска, мы даем точный ответ, это все приносит деньги, да, это уже сразу становится интересно. Тут коротко я попытался объяснить, да, как это может работать. То есть у нас есть, например, последовательность текста, да, которая заключена в чанках, которые заключены в ноды, да, и мы можем LLM передавать эти чанки, показывать, что вот такая связь существует, соединять все эти фрагменты в одну память, и с помощью сайфера, это язык внутренних запросов, по сути, как SQL, он позволяет передать в контекстное окно LLM, да, всю необходимую информацию. Да. Таким образом, мы снижаем галлюцинации LLM в разы. Практически мы их исключаем, можно гарантировать. Как тут еще Neo4j может выступать? Он может выступать также в роли векторного хранилища, да, если мы хотим посчитать вектора, сделать какие-то эмбеддинги. Это в целом тоже Neo4j легко можно сделать. Да, и LLM, опять же, может конвертировать вопрос пользователя, который написан на естественном языке, обычный наш человеческий, он может конвертировать его в запрос в сайфер. Это, опять же, очень удобно, потому что пользователю ничего не надо делать, он просто задал вопрос, а система уже сама все сконвертировала, совершила нужный запрос, получила необходимую информацию и ее обработал. Да, то есть таким образом мы заставляем модель буквально говорить «я не знаю», если у нее нет информации. Потому что, как уже было неоднократно озвучено тем же Антропиком, Гуглом, чатом GPT, что большие языковые модели тренируются таким образом, чтобы всегда давать ответ пользователю. То есть они никогда не говорят «я не знаю». Они, вот опять же, да, как плохой студент или стажер, они всегда хотят сдать тест, и они всегда думают, лучше я что-то отвечу, чем я не отвечу ничего или скажу, что я не знаю. В бизнесе такое недопустимо. Если модель не знает, она должна давать ответ «я не знаю, у меня нет такой информации». Да, таким образом мы исключаем вот эти галлюцинации. На этом все. Если у вас есть какие-то вопросы, я с радостью на них отвечу. Да, ничего страшного, я могу подождать.
Здравствуйте. Да, очень классная презентация. Я хотела у вас спросить, я, возможно, пропустила какие-то моменты, либо вы не сказали, а вообще чем занимается ваша компания? Получается, что именно они делают? Создают какие-то решения для бизнесов или что именно?
Да, я здесь, наверное, немного поторопился. Наша компания занимается риск-менеджментом. Мы предоставляем информацию в сфере compliance и KYC для регулируемых организаций, таких как банки, финансовые организации, большие поставщики, у которых очень много контрагентов, очень много партнеров, которым надо их проверять. Да, и таким
Ага.
образом, да.
Так, у меня еще есть, короче, два вопроса. Получается, вы сказали, что вы использовали Neo4j. Я вообще, если честно, никогда не слышала, но я слышала про N8N. Они вообще имеют какое-то общее что-то общее между собой или нет? Или это вообще совершенно разные?
Нет, это совершенно разные вещи, да, потому что N8N — это, по сути, оркестратор я бы сказал, продвинутый. А Neo4j — это реальная база данных, которая позволяет хранить информацию, но только в другом представлении, не так, как Postgres, например, да, и остальные релативные базы данных. Она позволяет хранить информацию в виде графов. Вот.
Да, хорошо. И еще вопрос. Я не знаю, насколько правильно его сформулировать, но, по-моему, вы сказали во время презентации, что вы используете, получается, только, ну, как бы проверенную дату. То есть вы берете, наверное, какие-то, ну, типа большие данные, делите их на чанки информации, и чтобы уменьшить bias, да, грубо говоря, вам вообще хватает даты, допустим, вам хватает, ну, вот, как бы, ну да, даты, грубо говоря, чтобы это все тренировать, чтобы, ну, типа, тренировать модели, допустим, использовать это.
Здесь не стоит вопрос о том, чтобы тренировать модель. То есть мы можем взять по факту любую модель от любого поставщика и связать ее с нашей информацией в графовой базе данных. То есть, как я и говорил, тут ключевой момент – это ограничение контекста. Да? То есть мы физически заставляем LLM работать с ограниченным набором информации. Мы ограничиваем возможность его галлюцинации. Потому что, например, если наш клиент хочет посмотреть какую-то информацию о своем партнере, обычно LLM может галлюцинировать. Да, или она может пойти на какой-нибудь сайт, где написано пиар-новость, и написано, что эта компания все отлично делает. Да? А мы предоставляем информацию из абсолютно разных источников, которая может из официальных источников, например, да, и мы точно знаем, ну, что компания выполнила не 100 проектов, а только 5, да, потому что в базе, которую ведет государство, там только 5 проектов, да, LLM может прочитать пресс-релиз, в котором написано, что 100 контрактов компания выполнила, и предоставит да, нашему клиенту информацию о 100 проектах и создаст образ успешной компании, да, которая много выполняет проектов. То есть, если коротко, в 2 словах.
Да, понятно. Все понятно. Спасибо большое. Очень классно.
Да, пожалуйста.
Спасибо большое, Артем. Если больше вопросов нет, сейчас мы начнем панельную сессию. I want to announce Dmitry Bobolev, is the man who will moderate the first panel session. So now the first panel session will begin.
Okay, should we start?
Yes, we can start.
Perfect. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. I'll be moderating this panel indeed. And we've got a lineup of great speakers today. So I think we're going to spend a couple of minutes just introducing our speakers today, and then we can proceed with the actual panel. So first of all, today we have, let me just find, apologies. Paneet Ramaul. Paneet is a senior technology leader with a deep experience in AI ops, observability, and automation across complex hybrid IT environments. He works closely with enterprises to help them harness AI and machine learning to build intelligent, resilient, and cost-efficient operations. Foundation in recognition, strategic vision, measurable outcomes, transparency, and operational control. Our second speaker today will be Tatiana Andronova. Tatiana is a lead product designer at Yandex Fintech, where she shapes the future of digital finance services through user-centered design and strategic product thinking. Her portfolio includes installment payment solutions, virtual credit cards, debt financing products, and BNPL services, all designed to simplify complex financial concepts for millions of users. With over 10 years of experience across technology sector. Tatiana has contributed to products at new banks such as Tinko, as well as cloud gaming common tools. Perspective design, regulate evolving ecosystems. So I think and then our last speaker today is, let us see, Amir Shini. Amir is a software engineer at Meta, where he works on building, scaling high-impact software systems, in addition to his independent and system user solutions. Whoa, that's a lot. So now that we have the good introduction of our amazing speakers today, and I can see we have a good balance between enterprise and startups, and also kind of engineering side, and some UI UX designers as well. I think it will be a very interesting discussion. The ideas from different perspectives. And so I want to start this panel discussion with you, Amir. So my first question would be, from your experience, what structural advantages do emerging ecosystems have?
I'm sorry, Dmitry. My connection, I think, is cutting off. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so hi, everyone.
Sorry, did you hear the question? I can repeat that if you want to.
No, I think I can hear you fine, Amir. I think, Dimitri, your connection is breaking up because you might want to rejoin again.
Okay. Well, I'll check on that in a second. But
Sure.
Amir, would you like for me to repeat the question, and I'll check my connection?
Yeah, please. Let's if you don't mind.
Okay, no worries at all. So the question was, from your experience, what structural advantages do emerging ecosystems have that more mature markets often lack when it comes to product innovation?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and again, thank you for having me. Okay, so when it comes to mature markets versus emerging ecosystems, we can think of mature markets as think of it as a beautifully furnished house that's existing. It's cozy. Lots of money may have already been put into it, and it's warm and it's profitable already. So when it comes to offering an upgrade or a refurbishment to it, you are very much limited in what you can do. You cannot just move walls around. You cannot just turn a kitchen into a living room. So you have to minimize the disruption to what's already existing and preserve what's working. Whereas in an emerging ecosystem, it's more like an empty loft where you have lots of open space and exposed pipes. It can be messy, but you can redesign things almost from scratch, like an empty canvas. So what this means is that in an already mature market, innovation can be restricted by the existing success that's there. There are revenue streams that needs to be protected, and there are people whose jobs are to preserve those revenue streams and can be resistant to change. Whereas the opposite situation exists in an emerging markets. Basically, startups are forced to be pragmatic. They have to change. They have a chance to redesign new modern workflows instead of having to integrate with 10 existing ancient systems. So basically, we are creating a new default instead of having to integrate with one that's existing. Yeah, and because users in emerging markets tend to be sometimes less attached to the way it's being done now, that creates opportunities for faster adoption of new products and solutions. And so There are a number of other advantages. One of them is that emerging ecosystems tend to have less of a mature regulatory space, which means that there is more flexibility to build things without having to worry about bureaucracy. Of course, this has its risks too, because you may end up building things that might become non-compliant once the regulations are put in place, but also you may be able to impact those regulations. But there is definitely an opportunity there. So yeah, to conclude, I mean, there are multiple advantages, but the biggest in my view is the lack of legacy. Like the legacy can be limited compared to a mature market. That's where the opportunities are.
Okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. I think moving from mature markets to more of a smaller markets, my next question will be addressed to Puneet. How should startups in small markets prioritize experimentation without overextending limited capital and talent resources that they have? By the way, just if there's any connections issues continue on
It
my
is all
side,
sorted
please.
now.
Okay, please let me
It's
know.
all
Yeah.
sorted. It was
Okay.
pretty good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dimitri, and thanks for the team to have me here. I appreciate that. The question is interesting, and there are so many analogies that I can drive, right? So, for example, they say that data is the new oil, but if you're looking at a small organization in a smaller market, uh, definitely data is the new oil, but the dearth of resources who can actually manipulate that data, derive insights out of it, that's a challenge, right? So you have limited resources. The plus side is the decision making in any startup is way faster than any big enterprise. There is no to very less hierarchy. The decisions are quick, smart, and the ROI is pretty clearly defined. However, I think the most important things that the startups in smaller markets that they can do and should do is research the problem. You don't really have to have a moonshot idea. Not really. Find out the boring stuff. What is it that causes a lot of headache and people are bored doing, right? Start addressing that. Put 70% on your resources and identifying the problem area, the most boring, lethargic things that nobody wants to do. Identify that, address it. I think the second thing is the moment we talk about technologies, AI, machine learning, we only keep tech personas in mind. The technology that you are creating is being created for an end consumer. That end consumer might be sitting in finance, marketing, creative, design, so many places, right? And we usually go to them once we have formulated the product. I think we should make them the part of researching the problem and thinking during the creation of the solution. So create a panel. You're a smaller organization, you have limited resources, you have limited customers to pivot to. If your POC fails for one customer, the word will spread fast and you have limited resources. So when you're researching the problem, talk to people from various departments, like constitute a panel that validates your problem, that define how you will measure the ROI, and they can come up with some nitty-gritty and very specific details which you can then use to formulate and build your product. I think the third thing is time to value. Now, time to value is not always when your product is created and it starts generating revenue for you. Time to value could be your product may not bring something entirely new on the table, but it might be useful for an organization or your target customers to expedite their strategic achievements, right? As simple as that. And that could be a conversational AI, that could be an image processing product. You may not have to write, or you may not have to invest your limited set of engineers, brilliant minds to write an LLM for you. You can already leverage something which is available open source, right? So you have to look at time to value, and how do you define time to value? Is it putting your product out on the table, or is it really attaching yourself with the customer to expedite their journey and helping them build something, right? That could be your solution, that could be your product. Utilizing your resources properly, investing, I think, 70% of your brain power or of your engineers' minds on actually building the core product rather than maintaining and doing the peripheral activities. research your problem well. Research your problem well, get it validated by a lot of different personas and not just tech people, right? And don't go for, bringing the moon to earth, right? Don't address big problems. There are so many other different organizations that they're doing it. Devil is in the details. It is in the boring problems. I do not really like, if I come back from my holiday, I hate looking at my inbox which has 800,000 emails, right? What I really need is just one small paragraph which summarizes all of that. So that's the boring thing that I want done. Let's do it, right? So those are my 2 cents. I'm happy to have input from other panelists and answer any questions if there are.
Yeah, thank you, Puneet. I think if we have time, we might do a bit more discussion towards the end. So for now, I think what you're saying, I completely agree with exploring the ideas, really nailing it down. And so I guess my next question will go to Tatiana regarding the design of that product. So we nailed down on the on the idea, and now we want to understand the design. The question reads, how can founders in the emerging ecosystems design products that are globally competitive while still solving distinct local problems?
Okay, yeah, thank you for your question. And actually, I would like to continue the thing that Puneet just said a couple of minutes ago. So I would like to say that founders should start to solving strong local problems, but think about global users from the very beginning. So it's very important to have a clear long-term direction and understand where the business should be in 1, 3, or even 5 years or in decades. So this helps teams make better product and design decisions early. And using clear UX patterns and scalable systems allows products to grow beyond one market. So for example, in fintech, a local payment or credit product may follow country-specific rules, and but the core user flows should be simple and familiar globally. So if the design system is flexible, the product can later adapt in new currencies, regulations, or risk models. So in my opinion, this approach helps products stay relevant locally while being ready for global expansion. So
Okay, that makes sense. I like the continuous theme that we're going here with the kind of referring back and forth. I mean, feel free to kind of interact between each other as well if you'd like to add more value to any of the questions that I'm asking. The next question, Amir, I think coming back to you, I have a question. Do you see AI lowering barriers for the entry for the deep tech and infrastructure heavy products in regions with limited legacy systems?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI is definitely lowering the barrier of entries, I would say, in all markets, but specifically with emerging smaller markets. As we mentioned before, is markets that don't have a lot of those legacy systems in place. It lowers the barriers of entries in a number of ways. First, let's think about and the biggest one in my view is basically building things faster and cheaper. I mean, as a software engineer, I can attest to the fact that writing code these days is very different from what it used to be just 1 to 2 years ago. You can basically turn an idea into a prototype to a working product and put it in front of real users way faster than before. AI is really good at getting you from like a blank page state where you are in a drawing board to a viable product, from code generation, testing, spinning up documentations, building like viable UX, UI, building API structures, and so on. So instead of needing a team requiring multiple months to build those things, we can get something to users like in a matter of weeks, if not days. which means that startups can allow themselves to spend much less time researching these potential ideas and planning them. They can allow themselves to just move quickly to API and to prototype, put that prototype in front of users, gather feedback, and iterate quickly. Another thing where AI helps is reducing operation costs, because we know that sometimes an idea can be good and viable, but it still dies because running it and maintaining it over time can be too expensive. So AI can basically help with that. It can help with managing, for example, customer support queues, automatically do some monitoring and analysis without the need of constant human to be there, and managing incident responses in a variety of ways. Of course, a human would need to be in the loop, but still, at least we don't need to pay senior people to do trivial, repetitive tasks all day. Yeah, and I think one big thing is, and especially important for emerging markets, I think, is that AI can help scale up human knowledge and expertise. So think if you have a shortage of some kind of specialist in a certain area, for example, doctors or experienced compliance people or whatever. So you basically can turn the knowledge of the few that you have into workflows via AI. And without really replacing the experts, but that knowledge can basically be scaled up and through automation. For example, we can triage patients much more efficiently without requiring them to see a doctor immediately. Yeah, so these are main points. An additional point can be about data bootstrapping. So sometimes we don't have data readily available because of legacy ways of handling things. It might maybe pen and paper and so on. So using AI to bootstrap data and help with things like design flow, data labeling, which sometimes is required to build the functioning products. This can be done by AI, even if you don't have access to all the data from the get-go.
Yeah, no, that I think there was a lot of useful tips that has been mentioned here, especially for the earlier stage founders. And for the next question, I'd like to address so we talk about the tips, but what about the mistakes, right? So the next question will go to you, Tatiana. What common mistakes do startups from emerging markets make when attempting to scale internationally, and how maybe they can avoid them early?
Well, I would say that one of the common mistakes is entering a new market without enough research and preparation. So startups often assume that users in different regions will behave in the same way, for example. And in fintech, this can lead to problems with trust, onboarding, or even with the payment flows and behavior. So, and another mistake is scaling too fast before validating the product internationally. And in my experience, we have faced with all these problems that I listed when we decided to launch from Russian market to Uzbekistan market with BNPL solution, and we just failed it in 1 month. And we were very I don't know, very popular in Russian. So our behavior with Russian people just failed in Uzbekistan market. Well, and for example, credit or BNPL products that work well in one country may fail in another country, as I mentioned before, because of different user experiences or cultural attitudes towards debt. So I think clear position and simple UX help reduce friction when entering new markets, and this is my main idea. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I believe so. We're kind of getting towards the end of our panel discussion. Unfortunately, we don't get too much time for each panel, which is a shame. I think we can get a lot of value out of here. If one of the moderators of discussion can unmute, so there's a
Oh, yeah.
question from someone of the participators.
Yeah, well, hello everyone. First of all, I just had a question. I don't know to who exactly address that, but I currently live in Germany, for example, and I live in a pretty conservative state in Bavaria. So right now, I'm just thinking, what if I want to start and like launch the business related to AI, but I don't know how to basically gain the trust from the organizations and from the companies. I don't know what's your experience. I'm more than sure that there are a lot of like experienced people when it comes to like startups making businesses in AI. Maybe in Europe, like someone also mentioned Middle East and maybe some post-Soviet countries as well. How would it be possible to gain more trust in terms of usage of AI, for example, for such a conservative society as Germany? Because it's very, very hard, and like nobody has trust in this system. People are mostly not that open to digitalization. So yeah, it would be really nice to hear your opinions, people. Like, I think that maybe some of you has something to say.
Thank you very much, Mariam, for asking the question. I think it's great when you have a bit of a interaction from the audience. I think the question is really good, and I think I'm going to address it to everyone. It will be the best way to slowly conclude our panel. Is it's about adoption, right? How do we gain trust? How do we make sure more people are using it as with the companies and consumers and workers? I think Puneet, if we start with you, just like maybe 1 or 2 minutes answer, keep it relatively short.
Yes, and I think you touched upon a very, very interesting topic, Mariam, and thanks for bringing that in. We've been discussing AI. The responsible AI element was missing from our discussion, which also ties back to earning the trust with the things that you do using AI. So I'll keep it very short and crisp. I think your question is largely about how do you bring AI into use in such a conservative society, and then how do you make people trust it? So again, my answer would tie back to identify your problem, right? Identify the problem which has a massive impact in terms of scale, but in terms of actual impact, it is not really much. So identify the repetitive jobs, right? And get your AI solution to get those done. Now, if you take that part out of people's life where they are doing repetitive work to waste more time, you are taking out and you're doing something good for them. Plus, even if AI fails to do it, it is not really something which is lethal or life harming or something of that sort. So identify the problem, solve the simplest problems first with minimal impact on lives and maximum impact on time. Now, that's where your effort will go to identify and crystallize those problems. That's pretty much the start of the answer, and then I can hand it over to other panelists.
Yeah. So, Amir, do you have anything to add about the adoption, how do we bring more AI usage into the conservative societies and companies?
Maria, I think she has raised an important issue, which is a trust as a newcomer. How do I solve the issue of trust? Other companies don't know me, they don't trust me. So I would say that an important thing is to come with an MVP, which is basically how you prove that what you're doing has value, and then to build on that trust and be very transparent about different practices. How are you handling privacy? What data are you collecting? How are you handling security? Is your solution secure, or are they going to open these companies up to cyber attacks? So what have you done to address all potential issues? Be very thorough with these upfront. And I think the doors should be open, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm sure they should be open. And then Tatiana, do you have anything to add to conclude this discussion about the adoption of the AI?
Well, I would like to say and add just only 2 points that when you start something and, well, you just have done the whole research and you know your market and so on. So the best thing to sell the product is highlight the profit. So you just say what the end user will get with using your product, and I think that's it. And the second thing is very important how you are saying it's about storytelling. And storytelling, I think, is mandatory in this thing when you're just pitching your product to other side and you're just highlighting something. And so it just the selling model, let's say so.
Dimitri, I know we are really short on time, but maybe last 10 seconds because I think
Sure,
that would be
yeah.
long. So, Mariam, the other thing is, which you will eventually read in the world of AI, is human in the loop, right? So, when you are initiating and when you are starting to convince the people about your outcome of your solution, etc., give them the confidence that until your AI is capable enough to take the decisions on itself for those problems, you will always have a human in the loop. It just gives you a mental peace that there is somebody overlooking, right? And be honest about it. For example, when I use AI to compile my emails, after my signature, I mention that I have used Gemini to write this email. So be open, be honest about it. There is no harm in doing that. That's it. Thank you, Dimitri.
Thank you very much, everyone, for today for this amazing panel discussion. For those who are listening, please do stick around. We're going to move straight into the second panel discussion. But once again, thank you very much, Puneet, Tatiana, and Amir, for this amazing discussion today. I think the input was very valuable. So I'm going to let you go, and then we'll just get our next three speakers in the panel to join in, and we're going to smoothly, hopefully, transition to the next discussion panel.
Thank you, team. Lovely meeting you all. Take care. Have a lovely New Year and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so we're just going to wait just a second to check that all our speakers were able to join. Okay. Right, and I think that's fine. So for this second panel discussion that we're going to have, I'll be moderating it as well. So you're going to be hearing from me a little bit more. For those who are just joined for this second panel discussion, I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is Dmitry Bobolev. I'm the founder of Froxy Labs, a London-based startup that builds Froxy AI. Froxy AI is the world's first AI-powered mobile app publishing assistant, where we help early-stage founders and agencies to publish the mobile apps into the App Store and Google Play. We scaled the Froxy Labs to over 100K revenue in less than 12 months, and now we're kind of growing with a team of 7. Apart from my technical background and a lot of experience in startups, I also lead FFDG London. It's one of the city's largest AI coding communities. We do a lot of offline events, panels, etc. So if you're in London, please do feel free to join us. And then I'm going to introduce our 3 speakers for the second panel as well. So today we are joined, first of all, by the Asif Iqbal. Asif is a software engineer at Meta with over 17 years of industry experience across leading global technology companies, including Meta, Google, Microsoft, and Adobe. He specializes in designing and building distributed scalable backend systems. Currently, Asif works within Meta Reality Labs, contributing to the infrastructure that supports next generation VR and immersive technologies. His experience lies at the intersection of large-scale systems, platform reliability, and emerging computing paradigm. Wow, that's a lot of companies on on the resume. Our second speaker today is Yashwanth Kotha. Apologies if I haven't pronounced it 100% correctly. Yashwanth is a design leader with over a decade of experience building SaaS products and digital platforms for both early stage startups and global enterprises. His work spans products designed for the first-time users, as well as a platform serving millions at launch. Previously, Yashnath led the UX initiatives at Microsoft, where he built the service trust portal, and received the best UX design award, and spearheaded the conversational AI platform design. At SHL, he led the design for assessment and talent platforms used across 150 countries, focusing on clarity, accessibility, and global usability. He founded Dropcar Design to bridge the gap between business strategy and user experience, helping organizations create products that users can immediately understand, trust, and return to. Well, we got two people either from ex-Microsoft. I think that's very exciting today. And our last but not least speaker today, I'm sure it's Arvind Gautam. Arvind is a technology and business leader with nearly 2 decades of experience spanning customer experience, cloud solutions, and enterprise platforms. As a director of technology, sales, and strategy at Snap Technologies, he leads the expansion of professional services across Asian region, drives go-to-market initiatives, and builds strategic partnerships with to accelerate regional growth. Arvind brings a strong perspective on scaling technology-led businesses in emerging markets, balancing commercial strategy with execution, and enabling organizations to adopt modern cloud and digital platforms effectively. Now, that was a lot of introductions that's been happened. I think we've been given a lot of background information on the speakers, and I can see that we have a very technical lineup of the speakers today. So I'm very excited for this second panel discussion as well. And I think we're going to jump straight into it again, because we're relatively small time allocated for each panel. I think I would like to start with you, Ashwant. So the question will be addressed. The question I have is, in practice, where is the line between the necessary national resilience and the counterproductive technological isolation? I know it's quite a lot. So if you would like me to repeat the question, feel free to ask.
Yes. Thank you for having me here today. I think the line becomes visible when resilience efforts begin to reduce learning velocity in the AI systems. Right now, national resilience is necessary. Governments require control over sensitive data and critical infrastructure and strategic AI capabilities. This has driven investment in domestic compute and national AI programs across multiple nations right now. You can see this in US, China, and even UK, and more emerging markets like India. So for product and technology companies, the risk emerges when resilience turns into isolation. AI systems improve through diverse data and shared benchmarks and continuous iteration. And in practice, successful approaches balance control with connectivity. Even when countries pursuing sovereign AI strategies continue to rely on global open source frameworks and international research communities, problems do arise when resilience is implemented as a permanent separation. So systems become harder to evolve and models are harder to evaluate against the global standards when there's a partition among how the data is utilized or how it is helped to used to train the AI models. The engineering effort needs to be duplicated across different regions. There is also a second risk, which is over centralization into a single cloud or region, or even for vendor for speed. If there's saturation just in one region, this creates a short-term efficiency and long-term fragility problem. And future regulations can play a constructive role by encouraging interoperability rather than full isolation. So I would recommend, when I say I recommend, maybe governments and tech companies should have a clear guidance on data classification, cross-border model evaluations, and shared safety benchmarks, rather than companies just designing simple systems that are not compliant and competitive.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think, speaking of problems that companies face, my second question will be addressed to Asif. how are disruptions in supply chains reshaping long-term research and development strategies and platform design decisions for technology companies?
Yeah. Hi, hello everyone. I think first we need to understand why this disruption is happening, and there can be many reasons. Some of the reason that I can think of is geopolitical tensions, pandemics like COVID that happened a few years back, natural disasters, or some rule change between the countries that can become a challenge for technology companies, right? And then these disruptions are just not operational headaches. They fundamentally become how the companies approach the R&D and platform design for the long term. I think the few changes that I can think of that has happened due to this is first, and the most important is rethinking about the R&D priorities. Like previously, we think about more of the optimization. Now, resilience takes major part and more priority than the optimization, right? Now, companies are investing in technologies and processes that can withstand shocks, such as alternative sourcing, modular design, and rapid prototyping. Like one of the example is after the 2020 semiconductor shortage, companies like Apple and Tesla began investing in alternative chip suppliers and even in-house chip design. And this shift in R&D ensures they are less vulnerable to single source disruptions. Second is the localizations and nearshoring. Like now there's a shift toward localizing R&D and manufacturing to local areas to reduce dependency on global supply. And one of the few example is like Microsoft has started expanding its data centers for print in Europe and Asia to reduce dependency on any one region. The second is platform design for flexibility. Right now, the design for the platform is more modular architecture, where they are kept in with modularity in mind and allowing components to be swapped or upgraded based on the availability of the supply chains. And this reduces the risk of single points of failures. Just like in software, in hardware, there can be single points of failure. So this reduces that. And one of the example that I can think of is Dell redesigned its laptops with modular components, allowing for easier substitutions of parts, right? Interoperability became one of the things for the platform design, right? So that one product can perform on different type of platforms. So if in future some changes are needed, if one of the vendors are not able to supply the components, it can work with other components. Like I think in Meta's, I can give an example. In Meta's, the VR that we are working on, right? They support multiple type of hardwares. So if one supplier is disrupted, the platform can still function with alternatives. So you have both hardware and software compatible with different types of software. Third thing is like we are using the technology to predict things. Like we are investing in digital AI, blockchain to monitor and predict if this can happen, right? And they can take an actions. Like for example, Cisco uses AI-driven supply chain monitoring to predict and respond to disruption in real time. And the third and the most important, like data-driven decision making. So for any decision you want to make, right, you need to have data to back up what's happening, and so you can take a better decision. And right, it's not just in supply chain. I think it happens with any field, whether a software decision, hardware decision, everywhere, right? So people take the data-driven decision. Like one example is Amazon's logistics platform uses analytics, right, to reroute shipments and optimize inventory. So I think these are some of the things that have happened, which companies are taking. So yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, I think Arvin, sorry, I think Asif, you've mentioned a lot of interesting points around the kind of regulations and how we can maybe control that. And my next question will be towards Arvind. How should startups and research labs comply with the regulatory and extra control requirements without slowing the pace of the innovation? And I think, it's obviously different between different markets like Europe, US, etc. So it will be interesting to hear your perspective on this.
Thanks for giving this chance to me. So in my business leadership career, so I have worked with the multiple countries. Those are small countries in ASEAN, and everyone want to be win the race in AI era now. Everybody want to there are new model, there are the new solution which are based on AI, and race is like anything. And in this race, they forget about the compliances. They keep compliances as a back step. They say, okay, compliance we can take later. And in this case, I have seen a couple of startups which I worked with them or they were connected to me. They failed to grow and they spend a lot of money on that. And after that, they die because of the funding. So it's just a simple example that you are developing something and you are forgetting about the GDPR, HIPAA, PDPA. Each and every country have their own set of regulations, regulatory compliances, which you ignore and you thought later on we can work on this. And later on, like a retrofit is not easy job. It's always take longer time, lot of money. So if the startups had taken this approach from the day one, that okay, the compliance should be part of their core innovation, core design, like they have to adopt modular approach where their code is a modular. If some country require a GDPR, they have to do in different layers. Some countries require a PDPA, that's a different layer. And honestly, whatever I work, I have seen couple of only that are successfully implemented, and most of them miserably failed in this because they didn't care about this initial time. And later on, they paid a lot of amount, hefty money for that and the time also, and they lose the customer. In my way, that they should be like a three principle they have to follow on, that this should be the framework they have to adopt. That should be the architecture modular one. They can create a small web services, API layer, storage layer, pipeline, all these they have to separate out to control better way. Then privacy and security should not be taken as a granted at the later stage. It should be from day one, like how they can store the customer data, how they can put a checks and controls for the accessing of the data, like SOC 2 compliances or the PDPA compliances. So later, so what happens, like they think about their own country compliances, they don't think about the global compliances. And that's how the things get twisted and the interesting part comes. So they think my country requires this, I develop solution in this, but that is not a growth model. When they go to, like a Singapore is a PDPA compliance. If they go to Europe, they will need to GDPR. Then after that, US requires something SOC 2. And they didn't think from the day one. So if they follow the modular approach, privacy by default from the day one, they can implement all these rollback access and everything, automatic logging, debugging. And then other major area, what I have seen, the documentation. Most techie guys, they focus on the tech solution. They forget how to document and how to prepare the document for audit and all these things. So that need to be covered. They need to think from the day one that how they can use infrastructure as a code, where they can put the commands, put the code, or write a script that can generate the compliance audit reports in the fraction of minutes rather than spending weeks time or months time. Because the compliances, if you fail, you fail. The large customer will first question what they will ask, do you have this compliance? No. Okay, go ahead. Go and get this first. And then you spend 6 months or 1 year time to get those one. And meantime, your customer is going to your competitor. So that's how this gone through in this area, at least what I have seen here. And then the they have to follow the regulatory radar mechanism where they have to appoint somebody who can scan all the compliances from all the regions at least once in a week to see what's going on, what's new thing coming. That you need to be ahead of the time. Otherwise, once your product is ready after 6 months and you are trying to launch, you face all these problems and you will face major issues. So in the real world, what I have seen, one of the company that's very good in healthcare, they have follow all these guidelines like a modular architecture, privacy by default, documentation code, and all these compliances from the day one. And they win the first customer within 2 weeks after the launch. And that is a large enterprise. So this way they have converted their competition, they kill them, and they supersede them and win the strategy. So compliance is something like you have to inherit from day one rather than you leave her later on. And this, if you are compliance ready from day one, your code, your development will be faster than all other guys rather than putting in the back foot. So this is my view for this compliance area.
Yeah, I think so. So the takeaway basically is start early on the compliance.
Got it.
I think I want to just carry on a little bit longer on this topic of kind of compliances and standards. I do realize maybe not the most exciting topic, documentation and compliance, but I think as you mentioned, Arvind, I think it's crucial that at early stage you get that right to avoid long-term problems. So my
Yes.
question, the next question will be addressed to Yashwant. So again, I think it's related to this in a lot of senses. What role do standard setting organizations and multilateral institutions play in this and basically in preventing the fragmentation of the fundamental technologies such as AI, semiconductors, and cloud infrastructure? So what kind of role do those large organizations and institutions play?
Okay. If you look at organizations like ISO, NIST, and IEEE, their role becomes clear very quickly. They create common ground in areas where governments and markets are moving in different directions at the moment. In AI, fragmentation does not usually come from a single regulation. It builds slowly over time and depending on different regions that adopt it and with different ideas of safety, evaluation, transparency, and acceptable risk. So over time, these differences make it harder to deploy versus same systems across the different markets. Standards help by setting shared baselines for how AI systems are assessed and documented, even when local rules might vary. So you can see how industry leaders already are working on this reality. At OpenAI, model releases are tied to safety reviews and staged rollouts, and detailed documentations that anticipate the global scrutiny. With Google Gemini, there is a similar emphasis on the clear evaluation methods and transparency around the system behavior. These practices do reflect on expectations that AI systems must work across regulatory boundaries. So standard bodies take these emerging practices and turn them into shared reference points so that the other emerging tech bodies can adopt it and use these regulators and enterprise procurement teams, and so that they can increasingly rely on recognized frameworks instead of one-off assurances. So over the long term, this reduces uncertainty for most companies that are investing in AI platforms and infrastructure and talent like NVIDIA and other AI-based companies. So this is especially important for India right now. India is rapidly building its AI infrastructure through national compute initiatives, large data centers, and AI warehouses that create strong domestic capabilities without alignment to global standards. And however, this infrastructure risks staying local. Standards make it possible for AI built in India to operate globally, which is attractive to international customers, but the scaling it beyond national borders gets very complex and very cost heavy. So in that stance, standards are not just about compliance, they're what allow emerging AI ecosystems to participate fully in the global economic race towards AI.
Yeah, and I think my next question will be addressed to Asif. We've talked a lot just now about different markets and the way the situation is different, obviously, on different parts of the globe. And I guess my question is, are we witnessing the emergence of this parallel innovation ecosystems? And if so, what are the implications for the global interoperability?
Sorry. So yeah, I think first, like, what is parallel innovation system ecosystem? That is basically, it refers to a separate, often regionally or politically defined networks of technology development. Like, for example, China has developed its own infrastructure, social platform. They use WeChat instead of WhatsApp. They have their own hardware supply chain, and they are largely independent from Western counterparts, right? In the similar way, EU has their own digital sovereignty. So the EU is pushing for data localization. They have their own privacy standards, which is known as GDPR, and their homegrown cloud solutions, right? So from the definition itself, we can say that yeah, we are increasingly witnessing the emergence of parallel innovation ecosystem, right, which have their own standards, platform, and regulatory frameworks. And why is it happening? This is happening because this trend is driven by geopolitical tensions, national security concerns, and divergent regulatory priorities. especially between US, EU, and China. So what are the different drivers of parallel ecosystem? First, again, it's geopolitical tensions. Every country wants to have superior technology, right? And they have their trade wars, export controls, and national security concerns, which are prompting countries to build self-reliant tech stacks. Sorry. Second is the regulatory divergence, right? Different approaches to privacy, like in EU, you have GDPR. In Asia, it can have different rules and regulations, right? So this also leads to parallel ecosystem. And the third is it comes from the first question that I had, like is the supply chain resilience, right? Companies and governments are trying to build local supply chains to reduce dependency on foreign technologies. So all these are drivers of the parallel ecosystem. And what are the implications? If I due to this is first and the major is the technical fragmentations, right? Like like different countries can have different standards for AI and cloud computing, and these may not work seamlessly across borders. There can be integration challenges where developers and the companies must build and maintain multiple versions of products to comply with the different ecosystems and to update it regularly based on the new changes, new rules that comes into them. So their system should be modular enough to take into that account. There can be innovation silos, right? Cross-border R&D and D and open source collaboration may decline due to the different rules and regulations, which basically slows down the global innovations. You have to think about the whole country's perspective, how it will be modular, how you can add new countries based on the new rules and all those things. There can be duplicated efforts. Like parallel development can lead to redundant investments and slower progress on innovation challenges. Um, the third is the market access and competition. It is like it will be difficult and it will be act as a barrier to entry, especially for startups and established firms. They have to face higher cost and complexity when entering a new market. They have to learn about the new rules, regulations, and make sure their technology is following those rules and regulations. So yeah, I think the rise of parallel innovation ecosystem is reshaping basically technology landscape while it offers resilience to it, but it also poses significant challenges for how to interoperate, to collaborate, and access new market. And addressing these challenges will require proactive efforts from governments, industries, to companies to make it smooth and move forward. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think AI is such a massive technology and having such a big impact, across the world and industries that I don't see it this possible to have it without the collaboration and this interaction between not just different companies but different nations and regions. They can work together to innovate and to adopt it better. And I think we're slowly kind of running out of time. So just before I ask my last question, if there's any questions in the audience, feel free to put in the chat or unmute after this last question. Mariam, I know you're very keen on questions, so feel free to also jump in later. But my last question, again, regarding the same topic about the collaboration, will go to you, Arvind. I think, how do researchers and companies sustain trust and cross-border collaboration amid the heightened political oversight? What do we do?
Okay, so cross-border is something like it's not very critical, not very complex. It's just like a trust based. You have to build a trust between yourself and between the cross-border parties, either it's a customer or the country compliance team. You have to show them that global challenges are there, but we are solving all the challenges based on our own country requirement or geopolitical tensions, political oversight, data sovereignty. All these things need to be factored in all these one. And the question is no longer like collaborate globally, but how do transparently and sustainably you can do that, and responsibility and sustainability for this. So my take is that you have to make a relationship with them, and there's a trusted relationship. When the political wind shifts, it's trust between people, no, not clauses in contract, no collaboration between other one. So this is the main thing what I learned, that if you have a trust between these two parties, you can easily solve your cross-border problems and challenges.
Okay. And I mean, I think this is a very good advice, and it has been very highly technical discussion here. We have talked about regulations and kind of this national, but also collaboration within the private companies as well. I think it's a lot that's going on, and so I believe that there's a question in the chats actually. You can unmute and say it yourself, or I can read it out. Well, basically the question reads: Asif, you mentioned cost and resilience pressures. Do you think this is pushing companies toward more modular AI architectures, and are we seeing new forms of lock-in emerge?
I think so. Yeah, it is pushing companies towards more modular AI architectures. Like, obviously, from what I think, whether it's a AI technology or any other technology, companies always try to make it more modular. You don't know what will happen in the future, different markets and different rules and regulations. So what I feel is yes, it is pushing companies towards the more modular architectures where it can take into any changes that happens. Because AI being a comparatively new thing, different countries may react differently in futures based on how and what type of result it produces, especially with the hallucinations and all those things that's happening. So yeah, different countries can have different set of rules and regulations, and the architecture should be good enough to follow that and respect that.
Yeah, and I think this kind of wraps up our discussion quite nicely. I think again we don't want to overstretch it in that sense as we're limited in time, but I think the key points has been mentioned today of how do we approach, how do we set the proper frameworks in place that we approach these problems and we're able to scale right healthily and work across different industries to make it all work. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Basically, the Christmas Eve, to taking your time and to actually share your expertise with all our listeners. So once again, Asif, Yashwant and Arvind, thank you very much for joining today. It was a pleasure moderating the panel with you. I think a lot of great insights here, and I wish you Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joel, for participating in Terricon Valley Hub Conference 2025. Have a nice holidays, have a nice day, and success in your new projects. Goodbye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.